my name's Leo. I'm going to be reading you 2 different short stories today, and also, thank you to some children I know for this wonderful sign. This is going to be a great backdrop for the video. So today I'm going to be reading The Elephant's Picnic from Tell Me Another Story by Eileen Colwell, and then after that I'm going to read Babbity Rabbity and Her Cackling Stump from the Tales of Beedle the Bard by J.K. Rowling. First, I'm gonna get comfy. You should get comfy too. Alright. The Elephant's Picnic by Richard Hughes. Elephants are generally clever animals, but there was once an elephant who was very silly, and his great friend was a kangaroo. Now, kangaroos are not often clever animals, and this one certainly was not, so she and the elephant got on very well together. One day, they thought they would like to go off for a picnic by themselves, but they did not know anything about picnics and had not the faintest idea of what to do to get ready. "What do you do on a picnic?" the elephant asked a child he knew. "Oh, we collect wood and make a fire, and then we boil the kettle," said the child. "What do you boil the kettle for?" said the elephant in surprise. "Why, for tea, of course," said the child in a snapping sort of way, so the elephant did not like to ask any more questions. But he went and he told the kangaroo, and they collected together all the things they thought they would need. When they got to the place where they were going to have their picnic, the kangaroo said that she would collect the wood because she had got a pouch to carry it back in. A kangaroo's pouch, of course, is very small, so the kangaroo carefully chose the smallest twigs she could find, and only about 5 or 6 of those. In fact, it took a lot of hopping to find any sticks small enough to go in her pouch at all, and it was a long time before she came back. But silly though the elephant was, he soon saw those sticks would not be enough for a fire. "Now I will go off and get some wood," he said. His ideas of getting wood were very different. Instead of taking little twigs, he pushed down whole trees with his forehead and staggered back to the picnic place with them rolled up in his trunk. Then the kangaroo struck a match, and they lit a bonfire made of whole trees. The blaze, of course, was enormous, and the fire was so hot that for a long time they could not get near it. It was not until it began to die down a bit that they could get near enough to cook anything. "Now, let's boil the kettle," said the elephant. Amongst the things he had brought was a brightly shining copper kettle and a very large black iron saucepan. The elephant filled the saucepan with water. "What are you doing that for?" said the kangaroo. "To boil the kettle in, you silly," said the elephant. So he popped the kettle in the saucepan of water and put the saucepan on the fire, for he thought, the old juggins, that you boil a kettle in the same way that you boil an egg or boil a cabbage. And the kangaroo, of course, did not know any better. So they boiled and boiled the kettle, and every now and again they prodded it with a stick. "It doesn't seem to be getting tender," said the elephant sadly, "and I'm sure we can't eat it for tea until it does." So then he went away and got more wood for the fire, and still the saucepan boiled, and still the kettle remained as hard as ever. It was getting late now, almost dark. "I'm afraid it won't be ready for tea," said the kangaroo. "I'm afraid we shall have to spend the night here. I wish we had got something with us to sleep in." "Haven't you?" said the elephant. "You mean to say you didn't pack before you came away?" "No," said the kangaroo. "What should I have packed, anyway?" "Why, your trunk, of course," said the elephant. "That is what people pack." "But I haven't got a trunk," said the kangaroo. "Well, I have," said the elephant, "and I've packed it. Kindly pass the pepper, I want to unpack." So then the kangaroo passed the elephant the pepper, and the elephant took a good sniff. Then he gave the most tremendous sneeze, and everything he had packed in his trunk shot out of it. Toothbrush, spare socks, gym shoes, a comb, a pack of bullseyes, his pajamas, and his Sunday suit. So then the elephant put on his pajamas and lay down to sleep. But the kangaroo had no pajamas, and so, of course, she could not possibly sleep. "All right," she said to the elephant. "You sleep, and I will sit up and keep the fire going." So all night the kangaroo kept the fire blazing brightly and the kettle boiling merrily in the saucepan. When the next morning came, the elephant woke up. "It's raining." That's me, Leo, saying that. "It's raining." "Now," he said, "let's have our breakfast." So they took the kettle out of the saucepan, and what do you think? It was boiled as tender could be. So they cut it fairly in half and shared it between them and ate it for breakfast, and both agreed they had never had so good a breakfast in their lives. That was a good story. I'm gonna have a little snack. Good. I was gonna say that maybe you should have a snack too, but my mouth was so full of chocolate that I couldn't say it. But I'm saying it now. Well, that was convenient timing. My dad just called, and as all of you children probably know, you should pick up the phone when your dad calls, so I just had a nice little conversation with him. But let's move on to the second story. Babbity Rabbity and her cackling Stump. A long time ago, in a far-off land, there lived a foolish king who decided that he alone should have the power of magic. He therefore commanded the head of his army to form a brigade of witch hunters, and issued them a pack of ferocious hounds. At the same time, the king caused proclamations to be read in every village and town across the land. Wanted by the king, an instructor in magic. No true witch or wizard dared volunteer for the post, for they were all in hiding from the brigade of witch hunters. However, a cunning charlatan with no magical power saw a chance of enriching himself and arrived at the palace, claiming to be a wizard of enormous skill. The charlatan performed a few simple tricks that convinced the foolish king of his magical powers, and was immediately appointed Grand Sorcerer-in-Chief, the king's private magic master. The charlatan bade the king give him a large sack of gold, so that he might purchase wands and other magical necessities. He also requested several large rubies to be used in the casting of curative charms, and a silver chalice or two for the storing and maturing of potions. All these things the foolish king supplied. The charlatan stowed the treasure safely in his own house and returned to the palace grounds. He did not know that he was being watched by an old woman who lived in a hovel on the edge of the grounds. Her name was Babbity, and she was a washerwoman who kept the palace linens soft, fragrant, and white. Peeping from behind her drying sheets, Babbity saw the charlatan snap 2 twigs from one of the king's trees and disappear into the palace. The charlatan gave one of the twigs to the king and assured him that it was a wand of tremendous power. "It will only work, however," said the charlatan, "when you are worthy of it." Every morning the charlatan and the foolish king walked out into the palace grounds, where they waved their wands and shouted nonsense at the sky. The charlatan was careful to perform more tricks, so that the king remained convinced of his grand sorcerer's skill, and of the power of the wands that had cost so much gold. One morning, as the charlatan and the foolish king were twirling their twigs and hopping in circles and chanting meaningless rhymes, a loud cackling reached the king's ears. Babbity the washerwoman was watching the king and the charlatan from the window of her tiny cottage, and was laughing so hard she soon sank out of sight, too weak to stand. "I must look most undignified to make the old washerwoman laugh so," said the king. He ceased his hopping and twig twirling and frowned. "I grow weary of practice. When shall I be ready to perform real spells in front of my subjects, sorcerer?" The charlatan tried to soothe his pupil, assuring him that he would soon be capable of astonishing feats of magic, but Babbity's cackling had stung the foolish king more than the charlatan knew. "Tomorrow," said the king, "we shall invite our court to watch the king perform magic." The charlatan saw that the time had come to take his treasure and flee. "Alas, your majesty, it is impossible. I had forgotten to tell your majesty that I must set out on a long journey tomorrow. If you leave this palace without my permission, sorcerer, my brigade of witch hunters will hunt you down with their hounds. Tomorrow morning you will assist me to perform magic for the benefit of my lords and ladies, and if anybody laughs at me, I shall have you beheaded." The king stormed back to the palace, leaving the charlatan alone and afraid. Not all his cunning could save him now, for he could not run away, nor could he help the king with magic that neither of them knew. Seeking a vent for his fear and his anger, the charlatan approached the window of Babbity the washerwoman. Peering inside, he saw the little old lady sitting at her table polishing a wand. In a corner behind her, the king's sheets were washing themselves in a wooden tub. The charlatan understood at once that Babbity was a true witch, and that she who had given him his awful problem could also solve it. "Crone," roared the charlatan, "your cackling has cost me dear. If you fail to help me, I shall denounce you as a witch, and it will be you who is torn apart by the King's Hounds." Old Babbity smiled at the charlatan and assured him that she would do everything in her power to help. The charlatan instructed her to conceal herself inside a bush while the king gave his magical display, and to perform the king's spells for him without his knowledge. Babbity agreed to this plan, but asked one question. "What, sir, if the king attempts a spell Babbity cannot perform?" The charlatan scoffed. "Your magic is more than equal to that fool's imagination," he assured her, and he retired to the castle well pleased with his own cleverness. The following morning, all the lords and ladies of the kingdom assembled in the palace grounds. The king climbed onto a stage in front of them with the charlatan by his side. "I shall firstly make this lady's hat disappear," cried the king, pointing his twig at a noblewoman. From inside a bush nearby, Babbity pointed her wand at the hat and caused it to vanish. Great was the astonishment and admiration of the crowd, and loud their applause for the jubilant king. "Next, I shall make this horse fly," cried the king, pointing his twig at his own steed. From inside the bush, Babbity pointed her wand at the horse, and it rose high into the air. The crowd was still more thrilled and amazed, and they roared their appreciation of their magical king. "And now," said the king, looking all around for an idea, and the captain of his brigade of witch hunters ran forward. "Your Majesty," said the captain, "this very morning Sabre died of eating a poisonous toadstool. Bring him back to life, your Majesty, with your wand." And the captain heaved onto the stage the lifeless body of the largest of the witch-hunting hounds. The foolish king brandished his twig and pointed it at the dead dog. But inside the bush, Babbity smiled and did not trouble to lift her wand, for no magic can raise the dead. When the dog did not stir, the crowd began first to whisper and then to laugh. They suspected that the king's first 2 feats had been mere tricks after all. "Why doesn't it work?" the king screamed at the charlatan, who bethought himself of the only ruse left to him. "There, your Majesty, there!" he shouted, pointing at the bush where Babbity sat concealed. "I can see her plain, a wicked witch who is blocking your magic with her own evil spells. Seize her, somebody seize her!" Babbity fled from the bush, and the brigade of witch hunters set off in pursuit, unleashing their hounds who bayed for Babbity's blood. But as she reached a low hedge, the little witch vanished from sight. And when the king, the charlatan, and all the courtiers gained the other side, they found the pack of witch-hunting hounds barking and scrabbling around a bent and aged tree. "She has turned herself into a tree!" screamed the charlatan, and dreading lest Babbity turn back into a woman and denounce him, he added, "Cut her down, your Majesty! That is the way to treat evil witches." An axe was brought at once, and the old tree was felled, to loud cheers from the courtiers and the charlatan. However, as they were making ready to return to the palace, the sound of loud cackling stopped them in their tracks. "Fools!" cried Babbity's voice from the stump they had left behind. "No witch or wizard can be killed by being cut in half. Take the axe if you do not believe me, and cut the grand sorcerer in 2. The captain of the brigade of witch hunters was eager to make this experiment, but as he raised the axe, the charlatan fell to his knees, screaming for mercy and confessing all his wickedness. As he was dragged away to the dungeons, the tree stump cackled more loudly than ever. "By cutting a witch in half, you have unleashed a dreadful curse upon your kingdom," it told the petrified king. "Henceforth, every stroke of harm that you inflict upon my fellow witches and wizards will feel like an axe stroke in your own side, until you will wish that you could die of it." At that, the king fell to his knees too, and told the stump that he would issue a proclamation at once, protecting all the witches and wizards of the kingdom, and allowing them to practice their magic in peace. "Very good," said the stump, "but you have not yet made amends to Babbity." "Anything, anything at all," cried the foolish king, wringing his hands before the stump. "You will erect a statue of Babbity upon me, in memory of your poor washerwoman, and to remind you forever of your own foolishness," said the stump. The king agreed to it at once, and promised to engage the foremost sculptor in the land, and have the statue made of pure gold. Then the shamed king and all the noble men and women returned to the palace, leaving the tree stump cackling behind them. When the grounds were deserted once more, there wriggled from a hole between the roots of the tree stump a stout and whiskery old rabbit with a wand clamped between her teeth. Babbity hopped out of the grounds and far away, and ever after a golden statue of the washerwoman stood upon the tree stump, and no witch or wizard was ever persecuted in the kingdom again. Well, that was really fun. I liked reading to you. If you have any requests of types of stories that you might want, you can comment that, and I'll read it next time. Bye!